Hello, folks, and welcome back to Cognitive Awareness with a Touch of God. I'm going to talk today about Episode 4, Learning How to Recognize Our Problems. It may seem pretty simple for some folks that we kind of know our problems. Or maybe some of us are denying the fact that we have a problem. What we're having a struggle with is, what are we going to do about it? The fact that I was an alcoholic, a dedicated drinker, a working alcoholic, I struggled through a lot of the acceptance part, admitting that I had problems. But my life was kind of filled with a lot of anger, a lot of hate, discord, a lot of anxiety, stress, and just a ton of ugliness. Along the way, I had to come up with a solution. My life took a major turn in 2001. A lot of ugly things happened. But without those, I would not be in this position today, being able to talk to you. So along the process of admitting that I was an alcoholic, I had to start learning how to cope with it. Not how to ignore it, but how to cope with it and understand it, and to understand myself. One of the most important first pieces of healing is the recognition of the problem. It's pretty simple. A lot of our friends and family, coworkers, and people that know us in general can easily figure out when things are going off for us, when they're going wrong for us. Our behaviors show the signs of problems. We deny them, we hide from it, we don't step up and be honest because we don't want to deal with the process of healing, or we don't want to deal with the criticisms or the letting people down. So we continue to hide it, mask it, cover it up with something else. Oh, I had a bad day. I just really need a drink. I need another hit. I need some more weed. I need to tell somebody that they're worthless because I feel worthless and I don't want the pain anymore, or whatever else your addiction is. So what we do is we mask our own pain with whatever process it is, or we place it on others. So when we get to the point of realizing, and I'm pretty sure everybody listening to this at this point has realized that you've recognized that you have a problem. Everybody has a different path that gets them to the point of recognition. I can't tell you exactly how you recognized your problem. I just know that that's the key part. You can't go any further than that if you don't recognize the problem. We have heard, whether it's through television or experience or radio or movies, we have seen people going to Alcoholics Anonymous, sitting there and listening to people spill their guts and their problems. And when it comes time for that individual to stand up and talk to people, the first words that should come out of the mouth is, "Hi, my name's Bob, and I'm an alcoholic." Probably one of the hardest things to do as an addict is to not just recognize, but to express to others that we have a problem. We might feel weak. We're no longer the strong individual that we portrayed. We're not good enough. We feel that we're failing in life if we have to admit that we have such a major problem. But the recognition is important. Deep recognition. Not just going to some doctor and the doctor saying, "Wow, you're drinking way too much, your liver's shot. Wow, you're taking too much heroin, you're going to die soon." Or, "Wow, if you keep having sex with somebody and you're not protected, diseases, unwanted births, and all sorts of things can happen from it." Just hearing those words and going, yeah, I got it, but I'm going to do my own thing anyway. Thanks anyways. That's not recognizing. Recognizing is knowing that you're going to take a path for healing and recovery. In this particular podcast, we're focusing on the cognitive awareness, meaning our thoughts. When we can have our thoughts telling us, "Wow, I got a serious problem, dude. I got to stop something. Somebody's going to end up getting hurt." Recognizing that moment of terror or difficulty or struggle allows us to know that somewhere deep inside us, we want to be free of it. So it takes a lot of will and a lot of hope and trust that we can change. And with change comes time. And we're going to be talking about that as well. So recognizing the problem, there's an art to it. Once we have that first obvious recognition, wow, I have a problem. Now the next thing is, let's dissect it. Let's figure out where the problem started from. Where does it exist? Why do I have the problem? One of the best processes that anyone can do is to dissect their moments of stress, recognizing not only that we have a problem, but where it stems from. Why do I drink? Why do I smoke? Why do I curse? Why am I angry? Why am I constantly hitting the walls? Why do I argue with my spouse? Why do I argue with my wife, my husband? Why do I yell at my kids? Why do I feel angry all the time? Why do I hate driving in traffic? The problem isn't driving in traffic. The problem is, how does our brain work while we're in traffic? How does our brain work when our kids are doing something that we don't want them to do? We have a specific set of skills that we've learned over our lifetime that have brought us to this point. Whether those skills are positive or negative directed, it just means we have a set of skills. We can only provide what we know. We can only educate what we know. We can only help based on what we know. We can't do things outside of our knowledge base because our knowledge base is all we have. So if we were brought up in a non-communicative family that didn't express emotions or give solutions other than because I said so, how are we as adults going to share that information with the people around us, or for our children for that matter? What we have to do is develop an understanding of how to find the problems, how to dig in. What is it that we're recognizing anyway? Is it just simply that we have an addiction? Is it simply that we are angry all the time? Is it simply because we have a desire to never be without family and we're so attached to it that we can't let go? It's all of it, and it's deeper than that. So there's some techniques to help us get to the core of our problem. And I'm going to just use my example, what I've gone through in life, my drinking issues, my anger issues, my lack of understanding what emotions really are. So growing up, I believed that I had a great family. I believed that my family was exactly what families are supposed to be. Mother, father, siblings. Until I was 13, when my parents told us that they were going to get a divorce. Then at 15, I found out the reasons why. Someone was being unfaithful. So I had just gone through puberty and was experiencing young teenage living when this happened. Now, I'm not saying it's a harder time than any other time, because if you were 7 and the same thing happened, it's still going to hurt. It's still going to suck. All I'm saying is that my situation between 13 and 15 to try and deal and cope with something without having either parent bringing me to an educational state of dealing with my emotions, talking to me about what's coming, it left me to figure things out on my own. Unfortunately, I turned to violence. I also turned to alcohol. At 13, I turned to alcohol. As soon as the information was shared that they're going to have a divorce, I started drinking. I think by 15, I was easily able to drink a fifth of Jack Daniels and not really get that affected. So it was pretty intense. But I was also just masking my emotional instability. From that point on, my entire adulthood until the last 18 years was driven by not really understanding or having a grasp on my emotions. So just imagine, as I had my children, what my desire was. You know, we try our best to make sure that our kids don't end up like us. We try our best to educate them and to teach them the things that we wished could have happened to us. So I focused a lot of my energy on teaching my children about emotions. But apparently it didn't stick well enough, or I probably didn't focus on it well enough so that they grew up well-rounded, emotional individuals. I'm just saying, I tried my best, but I was also working on half a deck. So I was putting myself up against the wall and not doing what I believe could have been the best job. But I'm not regretting it because I know everything I did led me to where I am today. So now let's talk about certain techniques that we can use so that we can better understand the issues behind our problems. So for me, I just kind of shared there was a lacking in my youth or a lack of understanding of what emotions were. So all I did was behave accordingly. If I didn't know how to talk about my anger, show my frustration, what my actions were based on that lack of knowledge. I was a fighter early on, as young as I can remember. I believe that's a direct result of having older siblings and being picked on quite a bit and being punched, kicked, thrown into tables. So the only thing I could do was act it out and approach other people and to provide that kind of a result in those tough times in my youth and my teens, even in my early 20s. So what I'm sharing with you is the ability to turn the clock back, to be able to assess what we've experienced, not just today, but 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. One of the key techniques of learning our cognitive misfires, our unhealthy thoughts, is dissecting a situation or our lives. How deep do you think it's going to go? Easily all the way as far as your memories can serve you. But there's also other keys to this. Don't forget, as we experience life, we're experiencing it through our eyes. Everything that we know was based on what our eyes told us. What were we seeing? What were we hearing? More times than not, there were other people around, involved, a part of our struggles or our happiness or everything that we've gone through in life. So not only dissecting something until it's as far back as you can go, but talking to other people that were involved in it as well. It's pretty interesting when you have siblings and you ask them the question of a situation that you knew caused you pain and suffering, and they give you their perspective. It may actually change your understanding of what you went through emotionally or physically in those years or in that moment. So going to a source other than yourself is another key element, another technique to be able to find the problem. And this is something you can do in every moment of every day. I can review a discussion I had this morning with someone and find out, did I approach it in a loving manner? How would I know? How would I be able to do that? I would just look at the situation again, replay it in my head, trying to listen to the words being said by both parties or just what I was saying. How was my body language showing up for the other person? How was their body language? What environment was I in? Was it dark? Was it noisy? Was it hard to hear? Could I not see somebody's facial expressions when I said something? There's a process that I call being the fly on the wall. I mentioned it in one of my previous episodes. Real simple. A fly on the wall is just something that's in the same room as you that has a different perspective on the situation. Perspective is very important. Nice example. You're driving down a street and on the corner you see somebody flipping a sign or saying, having one of those signs in their hand saying, "I need gas, please help." Your first thought is kind of dictating what you believe about people flipping signs or about people that are poor or people that are homeless. Your first thought will drive you into your next thought. I'm not going to give them anything. I know what they're going to do with it. They're going to take the money I give them and go buy a bottle of whatever or go get their drugs or just waste it. Whereas the perspective of looking at the individual, seeing them just as a human being that just happens to be in need. If you watched what they did in a day and found them crawling behind the gas station, putting a cardboard box over the top of themselves when it rains, you'd know that they need help. If they didn't need help, they wouldn't be on the corner trying to ask for money or help. And it doesn't matter what they do with their money. The concept is, what's your perspective on a situation? When somebody's talking to you and they use a word that you don't really like, why did they use that word? Doesn't matter as much as you recognizing that they used a word and it brought you to an uncomfortable moment. We call that a trigger. It triggered an emotion. It isn't what they said, it's the fact that you have memories or beliefs. And when they said what they said, it triggered a memory of it. And it either brought you to a happy place, a medium place, or a not so happy place. And then we think from there, we react, get defensive, become the attacker instead of the attacked, and it just turns ugly. So if we can take our moment, one moment a day, if we can take not the most difficult moment, but a moment that we might have said, wow, I wish I would have been able to do something better about that. If we can take that moment, rewind it, play it back in our head, play it back through our understanding of being kind and seeing how that scenario plays out, we might find the cause. Because again, nobody outside of you creates anything that you feel or think or do. So to recognize where your trigger came from is another critical piece. It's a very important technique that we need to focus on and to learn how to address it and quite possibly fix it so that the trigger doesn't affect us as it did just then. So the question becomes, how do we use these techniques? It's real simple. Moment by moment is the only way that we can practice these. We have to first learn how they work, then we can put them into practice. So like I mentioned before, I had a drinking problem, not because I decided one day that, oh, that's interesting, I wonder what that person's doing while they're vomiting in the back of a bar. I think I want to do that. That's not an inspirational moment. What inspired me to drink was my childhood inability to cope with an emotional trauma. and I saw other people that behaved as if they were having a good time drinking and forgetting about the worries of the day, the pains, the agony. Pulling back our moments is a critical piece for the recognition of the problem. My problem isn't alcohol. My problem is that I don't have a good grasp of emotions. And when I'm confused on my emotions, I just grab a bottle and start ignoring my emotions and masking it. Triggers. Key piece to success in healthiness, happiness. Key piece to success is to understand what triggers are, what triggers we have, and can we adjust our thoughts in order to not be affected by those triggers again. Understand fully that there's always going to be triggers. There's going to be stuff out there because as humans, we cannot forget our past, especially the traumatic, either the highly good or the highly not good moments in our lives stick with us the most. It's like the smell of cookies being baked. I don't care how old you are. When you smell chocolate chip cookies being baked, there's a whole lot of goodness behind that. The emotional connection with the smell of chocolate chip cookies. But that's a good thing. If somebody says you're an idiot, there's a possibility you might be triggered way back to when you were 3, 4, 5 years old and you did something and one of your parents says, "You're such an idiot. Why can't you do what I'm asking you to?" That's a trigger. Today, someone or something happened and it brought you to a previous experience in life, which then brought out the emotion behind that moment either yesterday or 50 years ago. Recognizing the trigger is important to be able to go through the moment, get your anger, your sadness, your disappointments, your reluctance, your rejection, all of those emotions that you have to deal with in that moment. But when it's done, when you're away from that situation and you look back and say, "Man, that would have been nice if I could have changed how I felt. Why did that upset me so much? And then why did I go at them defensively? Why did I go grab that bottle of Jack Daniels and try to drink that moment away?" That's the moment where we can start looking at that situation and pull it back down and say, well, what did they say? What happened that made me or that brought me to that moment of feeling the way I did? Was it the way they said it? Was it the words they used? Was it the fact that I was having a bad day and they just said the wrong thing at the wrong time? Was it the fact that I saw somebody punching somebody else and I could feel the pain of the person being hit that triggered me to get angry and then I went and punched that other person? So there's a lot of ways to look at it. Your moment is your moment. Your moment is your moment. Taking that trigger, figuring out the source of it. I'm in a new relationship. It's been great for 2 years. Then my partner said something, and I immediately got angry. The first time I was ever angry with them. Why would that happen? Is it because you're an angry person in general? If it's the first time you got angry in a relationship in 2 years, the answer to that is no. The answer to that is there's probably something that happened that triggered you to be angry or upset or frustrated. So we have to look at the source. Go to the source of the problem by dissecting. Recognize there's a problem. What is the problem? Then find out what causes the problem by dissecting, by being the fly on the wall. Here's a fly up on the wall. When it sees a scenario happening, it can see it from a different perspective than you. Because when you're yelling back at somebody for yelling at you, all you're seeing is their face and the anger that you have or the dislike, distrust that you have. And all you can hear is the words in your mind going, quick, protect yourself, throw out a zinger, throw out something at them, be defensive, put up a block, put up a wall. That's all that our thoughts are bringing us. Whereas the fly on the wall is seeing the entire situation. It sees the two people or the group or the situation as it truly is. Because a fly doesn't know thought patterns. A fly doesn't know emotions, and a fly doesn't know what words are. The fly just gets to see everything for what it truly is. It's very similar to a baby, a newborn. Before they start learning to talk, they learn to observe. There is nothing more pure than an infant observing. So if the infant is observing an argument between its mother and father, it can feel the tension. It can hear the volume shifts, and it sees the physical actions, the face getting beet red, the anxieties, the person punching the refrigerator, throwing stuff. It can feel that. So the perspective other than yours is a great perspective to try and see. A lot of people say, walk a day in my shoes. You don't know how it feels. Try to see it from my side. That's critical, folks. That is critical. If you have the ability to take yourself out of your own egoic mindset or your own defensive mindset and to just say, you know what? It was just a bad situation. Regardless of right or wrong, regardless of any outcome, that was a bad situation. I'd like to fix it or at least address it so that it doesn't happen again because I'm very uncomfortable with how that turned out. Once we get a commitment to that, saying, yes, please, I want to change how I think. I want to change how I react. I want to be a better person because I know if I'm good, people will be good to me. If I'm stressed, I will receive stress. So I would love to be able to be a better or a more balanced individual. Once you commit to that, you can then start looking at things from a different perspective, from the baby's eyes, or from the fly's eyes, or from the other person. Integration is a word that just simply means do it. Bring it into your life. Make it part of your routine. Integration is putting your socks on. Your parents or somebody taught you how to put socks on. They did it 3, 4, 5 times, maybe 6 months, who knows. But there was a point in time where you got it. And you started putting your socks on yourself. Tying your shoe, putting your pants on, getting your breakfast ready, walking, riding a bicycle. Any of these things took time for us to get it. But once we got it, it was integrated in our everyday actions. Once we figured out how to ride a bicycle and the fact that we pedal harder, it makes it easier. Once we got that, there was no turning back. Once we learned how to put our socks on, we were eager to learn how to tie our shoes. We were eager to learn the next cool thing. You watch one of your parents cooking or maybe building something and you're going, wow, that's cool. I like that. That's creation. I want to do that someday. If you watch it enough, if you learn enough, if you practice enough, it becomes integrated in what you do and how you behave. So integrating these tools and these techniques, recognition, being the fly on the wall, observing, changing your perspective. Once you learn these and start doing them, you have to integrate it in your daily routine. How long could that take is a lot of questions that people ask. As long as it needs to. And it may take the rest of your life. I am 18 years, going on 19 years past the point of retraining my brain. And I'm constantly aware that when I get into an uncomfortable situation, I have to evaluate it. I've just integrated it so much that there's a chance that I get to evaluate it before I speak, before I regurgitate a thought. I can see the thought being not so kind, and I can stop myself before the words come out of my mouth and say, how do I want to approach this without being offensive or attacking? How can I change what's happening right now to a better situation? So integration, for me, has taken a long time, and I expect it to be the rest of my life. It's kind of like not being an alcoholic, but once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. My belief right now is that I could take a drink if I wanted to and not be affected by it. The truth is, I have integrated the lack of need for alcohol in my life to a point where the thought never crosses my mind. I can go anywhere at any time, and people could be drinking and having a great time, and at no point in time do I go, wow, it'd be really cool to have a drink. Am I not an alcoholic because of that? That's all up to debate anyways. I believe I've recovered. Am I an alcoholic still? I'm not going to classify myself that way. I'm classifying myself as a healing, loving, compassionate, and decent human being that actually cares about everybody and everything. So it took me 18 years to get to this point. I'm not saying as of today I've just become that. I'm saying that over the years I graduated into being a better human, a better person, a more caring, compassionate, empathetic being, using these techniques that I just talked to you about, and using them day after day after day after day after day. So that concludes today's topic. Again, learning how to recognize our problem. It's a lot deeper than the shell. It's a lot deeper than our moment of struggle. It's a lot deeper than our decision to keep our addiction or to have just one more. It's a lot deeper than that. In order to get healing, to attain a healthier, happier life, you have to figure out which technique is going to work best for you. There are hundreds of techniques out there. The ones I gave you were just a sample. They were the ones that were catalysts in my life. Once you get those techniques and you figure out how they work and how they're supposed to work, then it's a matter of just practicing. Do it once. And folks, a critical piece to this whole puzzle is it's okay to stumble. It's okay if you don't do it right away. If 2 days later you go, oh man, now I get what happened the other day. Now I understand where I went emotionally. You don't have to be perfect, folks. You just got to try, and you got to have hope, and you got to trust that you're going to attain it. You're going to reach happiness and healthiness and healing. But we have to take it one step at a time. We do not have to beat ourselves up if we miss the boat. There's always another boat. You'll have another moment to practice. And eventually, from experiencing a moment and recognizing the mistakes after the moment's come and gone, the next time you might recognize it as it happens. You might recognize it the next time after that as it's happening. You might then be able to defend it before it comes out. You might be able to prevent it before it comes out the time after that. And if not, that's okay. If it takes you 2,000 attempts at the same situation or scenario, it's okay. Because you know what? You're trying. You're putting effort towards it. Give yourself credit where credit is due. If you try, you can't fail. If you try, you progress. If you try, there's always hope. And if you're struggling, you find somebody like me that can help you, that can guide you, whether it's through these podcasts or through books or writings that I've done. There's always help out there. The key part, as we said at the beginning, recognize. Recognize not only that you have a problem, but that you want to solve the problem. And what are we trying to recognize? Not the problem, but the catalyst or the core behind the problem. Thank you very much, folks. May you all be blessed. Have a beautiful day, and remember, I love you. See you next time.